Bienvenidas y bienvenidos a este
Welcome
seminario
to this
Chino más
seminar,
Deportes.
Chinese
Este
plus
webinar
Sports.
será
This
impartido
webinar
en
will be
los idiomas
spoken in
español,
languages Spanish,
portugués,
Portuguese,
chino e
Chinese,
inglés.
and English.
Pueden seleccionar su
You may
idioma en la
select the
parte inferior de
language
la
of your
pantalla,
choosing
donde
at the
hay
bottom of
un
your screen, where
dibujito
you
del
can see
mundo
a little globe
y están
icon,
desplegados los 4 idiomas.
and there you can choose one of the
Me
4 languages.
presento, soy Roberto
I am
Lafontaine,
Roberto
director
Lafontaine,
del Centro de
Director
Cooperación
for the Center for
Internacional
Language
para
Education
la
and
Enseñanza de
Cooperation
la Lengua
for
China,
the teaching of
Center for Language Education and
Chinese
Cooperation,
language
la Oficina Regional para
for
América
the
Latina
regional
y el
office for
Caribe.
Latin America and the Caribbean.
Nuestro centro
Our
depende
center,
del
that
Ministerio de
is depending
Educación
from
de
the Ministry
China.
of Education of
En
China,
América Latina y el
in
Caribe
Latin
se
America
dedica a
and
la
the Caribbean,
enseñanza del
is
idioma chino
dedicated to the
entre
teaching of Chinese
instituciones
language
públicas,
among
privadas,
public, private
gobiernos
institutions,
nacionales,
national
locales,
governments, local
instituciones de
governments,
educación superior,
higher education
instituciones de educación
institutions,
secundaria y
secondary
primaria.
education institutions, and
Hoy
also primary
nos
education
reúne
institutions.
una
Today,
conversación
we're gathered by
interesante,
a
la
very important
relación
conversation,
entre el
the
deporte y el
relationship
idioma chino.
between sports and
En
Chinese
esta
language.
nueva edición
In this
de
new
nuestros
edition
seminarios
of our
Chino
seminars,
Más,
Chinese Plus,
exploraremos cómo el
we will be
idioma puede abrir
exploring
puertas
how a
al
language
mundo
can
del
open
alto
doors to the world
rendimiento, el
of high
entrenamiento, la
performance
educación
training,
física
physical
y el
education,
patrimonio cultural
and the
intangible que
intangible
representan
cultural
disciplinas
patrimony and
chinas
heritage
como el wushu.
that is represented
El deporte ha
in
sido
Wushu from
históricamente un puente entre
so
culturas.
sports has been a historic
En este
bridge among
espacio
cultures. In this space,
reunimos a
we gather
especialistas de
specialists
China,
from China,
Brasil y
Brazil,
Chile
and
para
Chile
reflexionar
to
sobre
reflect
cómo el
on
idioma
how
chino
Chinese
ha
language
contribuido al
has
intercambio
contributed
técnico,
to the
educativo y
technical,
cultural
educational,
entre
and cultural
entrenadores,
exchange among
universidades y
coaches,
federaciones
universities,
deportivas.
and sports federations.
Queremos compartir
We also
experiencias
want to share
exitosas y
experiences that
también
have been
desafíos,
successful and also some
desde
challenges.
entrenadores chinos
From
trabajando con
Chinese
atletas
trainers
latinoamericanos
working
hasta
with Latin
académicos que
American
investigan
athletes
el
and members of the
impacto de
academia
los
who
deportes
research the
tradicionales.
impact of
Es
traditional sports.
importante
It
también
is very important as
saber qué
well
se
to
hace en
know
América
what it
Latina
is
en
done
deporte
in Latin
y cómo
America in
podemos
sports and how can
nosotros
we
desde América Latina
ourselves from Latin
unirnos a
America
los
to
deportistas chinos
join
para
the Chinese
compartir
sports
nuestras
people
experiencias.
to learn, to share our
Con esta
experiences.
reflexión
So with
queremos
this
darles
reflection,
la
we would like to
bienvenida y
welcome
agradecerles
you
su
and also
asistencia.
thank you for your attendance.
Antes de comenzar, los
Before we
invitamos
begin,
a dejar sus
we would like to
comentarios y
invite you to
preguntas
leave your
en la
comments
parte
and questions
inferior de su
at the
pantalla
bottom of
en
your
la
screen
sección de
in the
preguntas y
section of
respuestas.
Q&A.
Este y todos nuestros seminarios
This
son
and all of our
grabados en
seminars are
todos los
recorded
idiomas,
in every
los
language,
4 idiomas,
well, all
y
4 languages I will
publicados
give them
en
in,
nuestra
and they are
página
then
YouTube.
uploaded on our YouTube
Para
channel.
mantenerse informados
So
sobre
you
los
can
diferentes
stay
seminarios y
updated and
talleres que
informed
organizamos,
on the different
pueden
seminars and workshops
revisar
that we
nuestra
do. You
página
can
web
always
y
check our
nuestras redes
website
sociales que
and our
están
social
siendo ahora
networks that are now
compartidas en el chat.
being shared on the chat.
Además, les comentamos que todos
Also, we'd like
nuestros
to tell you that
seminarios
all of our
son de
seminars
carácter
are
gratuito
free of
y
charge,
entregaremos un diploma de
and we give
participación
a diploma
a
of
quienes
participation
asistan al
to those who attend to
80% del
80%
seminario.
of the seminar.
Datos obtenidos de forma automática a
This is
través de
data
la
that is obtained
plataforma Zoom.
automatically through the Zoom
Los
platform.
diplomas serán enviados
The diploma
directamente a
will
su
be
correo
sent
electrónico de
directly to your
inscripción
email, our registry
durante
email,
las siguientes
during the upcoming
semanas.
weeks.
Ahora dejo
Now,
con ustedes
I will
a
leave
la
you with
subdirectora
the Deputy
de la
Director
Oficina
of the
Regional de
Regional
CLEC,
Office
señora
of CLEC,
Ruan
Madam
Wishao
Huang
Valeria,
Wishao,
quien presentará
Valeria,
al
who will be
profesor
introducing
Udon.
Professor Udon.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very
大家
much.
好，
Hello
我
everyone,
是拉美中心副主任阮慧乔，
I'm the Deputy
很高兴
Director
有
for
机
the
会
Latin
和大
American
家在线
Center.
上
It's
见
very
面。
great for us to
正
see
如
you
罗伯特先生刚才
online.
所说的，
Just
今年
Roberto
拉美中
said,
心将结合拉美
this
中
year
心的
our
特色，
Latin
推
American
出了
Center
一系
will
列的
combine with the
专家讲
specialty
座，
with the Latin
致力发
America
展
and
对
will
专家的多元化
hold
认识，
many
不
webinars
断
and
提高他
to
们的实
develop
用性和功能性，
the
促进拉美中
Chinese
心
in the
和中
Latin
国
America
之
and
间的
to
互动，
promote the
增进
Chinese
相互的
and
认知
to
理解。
narrow the
那
Chinese
今天
people
呢，
with the Latin
我
American
非常
people.
荣幸
And today
邀
we
请
are
到
very
北
honored
京
to
体育大学
invite
王教
the
授 给我们打响头炮。
Professor Wu Dong
我
from
先给大家介绍
Beijing
一下
Sport
朱教授，
University.
他有
So
将
first,
近
I will
50年
introduce
的
the
习
Professor Wu
习
Dong.
武的经验，
Have
精通
50
太极拳
years
和
martial
形意
arts.
等传统的拳
He's
法。
good at the
目前
different
呢是
faith.
担任北京体育大学中华民族传统体育研究院
And
的
now
院长。
currently is the Dean
他
of
在
the
体育
Institute
教
of
学
Traditional
还有
Chinese
学术研究领
Sports.
域硕果累累，出版过多本关于中国书籍、中国武术
He
的书籍，
published
多
different
次到
the
美国、意大利、
books of
希
the
腊、
Chinese
澳大利亚
traditional
等国家去讲
and
学、教学、组
to
织比赛。
research
近年来
and
呢，他
give the
致力于
research to
将中文
abroad.
知识
And
和本地
recently,
深度
and
融合，让更多人能够领略到这种独特结合的魅力。
he make
那
a
现
lot
在
of
我就请
people
武东
to
教授
learn the
开始
Chinese
今天的讲
traditional
座。
sports and the traditional martial arts of China. Now, let's welcome
谢谢
Professor
老
Wu Dong.
师
And
非常准确
thank you
也
so
非常
much
高度的
for
赞扬。我很高兴，下
Professor
边我开始我的讲
Wan and give me high admiration for us. I will start my presentation
马
now.
老师可以看到，感谢各位老师给我一个机会和大家一起分享中国武术的魅力。请注意，我们在开始
Today
的时
I
候呢，
will
前面有两个
introduce
小
the
字，
charm of
叫
the
身
martial
道，
arts.
是
And
说
from
中
these
国的武
very
术它不
small
仅仅是一个身体的运
characters
动，
from the
更多是
body
通过
to
身体
toes
的
them,
运动去体
it's
味
not
中国
only
文
for
化的
the
魅力
body
和人
moves,
生的快
it's
乐。
from the
因
body
此，
move
我们
to
今天的主题
experience
其实
the
是一个核心
charm
思想，
of the
想
martial
给大家
arts
介
and
绍
the
一下
toes
人
them.
为什么要
So
练
this is
习
the
武术。
concept
因为
of
叫
us
martial art， 中国叫武术。
for people. Why do we do the martial arts?
今天应该是来自万里长城对安第斯山的一
Today
个问候。
is
我们
as
努力
we are
的悠久的
from
历史，
the
也有着光
Great
辉的
Wall to say
抗
hello
战的
to
武
the
术。因
Mount
此，今天
Andes.
我
We
想
have
从
the
3个维度和大家分享我们对武
prosperous
术、对文
history
化、
and
对
culture.
人类
Today
健
I
康
will
和
from
文明
three
的思
types
考。
to
第一
introduce
个，我们可能要谈一下武
to
术
the
的本质。
thinking of the
接着我要
health
说说
and
武术的魅力。
civilization.
最后
First,
我
I
要
will
谈谈
to the
武术是有什么
essence, the
旁边有一行字，我不知道各位老师
content
能不
and
能看清楚，
values.
同学们看到
Here
了
you will
是
see
人的生命
can
是
see the
因武
side
而
of the
生，
characters,
而
and
以武
for the
成
life
生活
is
的一种标
from
志。
the martial arts,
因此，我们
and
展开我
do
们今
martial
天的
arts is the one
一个分
lifestyle
享。
for people. Today I will
这
start
呢，这一篇呢
my
是要将
sharing
武术
today.
的本质看起来稍微有
From
点
this
繁琐。
page, we
我
can
给
see
大
the
家做了
essence
一
of
个
the martial arts. It's a little
因
bit
为
complicated.
西班牙语的一个
I
简单的一个翻译，大家可以稍微看一下，
do the
但是不用
translation
看得太仔细。
into Spanish,
就
but
是什么
it's
是武术？
briefly.
这里边呢可以给大家说几个关键词。
From this,
在
we
我们
can
的
see
书
some
上，以
keywords
往的
from
教材
this.
里说啊，
In our
武
books,
术呢是以积极
and
动作为主要内容的，有套路、搏斗组成的
martial
运动形
arts
式，
national
讲究
sports
内外
focus
兼
on
行、贴
combat
身贴背
skills
的一
and
个
use
零式传统
rituals,
体育运动，
fighting, and other
听起
forms
来
of
不绕口。
exercise.
今天我给大家最简单、最直
Today
接、
I will
最核
briefly
心、
introduce
关键
to
的
the
点，让大家
key
看得到，
and
真正能体会到
important
究竟什么
parts
是武
to
术。
learn what's the
这张
concept of
图
this.
看起来很美丽，
From
但是
this
实际上大
picture,
家只记
it
住6
looks
个
very
字就可以
beautiful.
了。
You just
我们
remember
通过武
6
术，它
words.
是有一个
For
功法。
Chinese martial arts,
功
we
法就
have
相当于
the
我们学汉语是首先
the
学习拼音
skills.
啊喔呃
Like
以
we
这
study
是基本
Chinese,
的
we
字
must
的练习。
learn Pinyin.
然
It's
后
the
我们
base,
呢有个套
it's a
路，就
basic.
像我们学完汉语要
And
写
we
一篇
have the
文章一样。
routines. For
接着呢，
example,
我们
while
还
we
有
learn
一个
Chinese, we might write
用
an
法，就是
article.
我们套
And
路里
the
边有哪些
usage
是写
from
文
this
章，那用法就是
routines
套路里边
and
那
how
些
to
动作
use
怎么去
it
防身的，就相当于我们看到文字以后啊，
and
那些
how to
文字表示
defense
含
for
义是什么。
ourselves.
它是
And
3位
like
数
we
字
study
的。
English, when we see
今天很遗
when
憾，
we
今
see
天
the
本来我在后边
text,
还做
we
了2位
must
留学
know the
生，来自
characters.
拉丁美洲
Today
的。
is a little
本
bit
来
of
我们想给
pity
演示一下，但是因为
and
我们那个是用了个 PPT，
to
后边有背景，
international
所以今
students
天这
from
个
Latin
我就
America
用
besides
视
us
频演示了，要不
because
然我们
I
现
will
场现在
set
就
the
有2位
background
留学生在我
from
的身边。
this.
那么我们看到
Actually,
这个呢，
currently
给
there's
大家
2
看一个很
international
简单
students
的，也很有
sit
趣的。
beside us.
好，我再
And
重复一遍。
now
什么
I
是
will
武术呢？
repeat
我
this.
们不做形式逻辑的
And
分
what
析，
is martial
说
arts?
6个关键词：功法
I say 6
套路
keywords.
和用法。好，那我们
It's
以太极拳为
skills,
例，给大家展
routines,
示一下
and
什么是功法。
usage. And
怎样
from
练
the
习套路，
Tai
如何
Chi
用法。
to
大家
learn
请
what
看。
is routines and how to use these routines to attack and defense. This is a technique.
大家现在看到
Now
是
we
太
can
极
see
基
the
本
Tai Chi technique. It's a basic Tai Chi.
好，我们刚才看到的是一个基本
Okay,
功，大
just
家
we
发
watch
现
is a basic Tai Chi technique, we can say.
好，大家下面看一下我们刚才列的基本功的套路。
Now we can see these routines for the basic technique of Tai Chi.
现在练习动作叫揽雀尾，是模仿一个小鸟在手里的一个动作。
Is to imitate one bird in someone's hand.
看到这个以后呢，我们就有一个疑惑了。我们
And
刚才
as
练习
we
的一个
watch
基本功的
it,
动作，
we
我们
may
练习
have
过
a
非常柔和
confusion
缓慢
when
的
we
太极动
practice
作，
the
就
basic
像在
technique
抚摸一个
and
小
how
鸟的翅
to
膀
make
一
the
样。
slow
它
touch,
就跟武
like
术
the
一样。
touch the
大家请
swings
看，
of a
这
bird,
是一
and
种
what's
非
the
常
connection
防的
with
方
the
法，
martial
看
arts?
起来很惊讶。
Actually, it's a very good defense skills for us.
好，那我们就看一个动作。时间关系，我们不仔细看了。
We
其
can
实它
see
有
these
4个动作。
actions.
这4个动
We
作
have
呢，其
4
实跟刚才
actions.
我们练习
From
的
these
基
4
本功
actions,
和套路，它是
and
一脉贯穿的，
it's a
体现了一个功
it's
法
the same
和
with
我
the
们用法的
basic
体
Tai
系。 而
Chi,
中国人
and
整体思维
to
1生1，
appears
1生2， 2生
the
3，
routines
3
and
生
the
万物的一个逻辑排列。
usages and the
所以你
same
看太极
as the
拳，它其实
essence
是
of the
通
Chinese
过文化的
Taoism
一个硬化的一
concept.
个不仅仅是
Actually,
一个身体的表
Tai
现。
Chi
因
is
此我们
one
说，
is
武
one
术是一
reflection
种
for the
身体运
Chinese
动，更是一种文
culture.
化，也
So
是一种修养，
martial arts
还是一
is
种
not
哲学道
only
理的体
for
现。
one
它是一个引进落空，
the
不主
exercise
动
of
去跟对方
cause
格斗，
to
但是又可以
appears
真
for
正
the
的美好的一个
civilizations.
文化精品。因此，我们看到这个地方呢，我们
And it's one
对武
one
术
type
有一
of the
个
very
直观的
precious
了解。
Chinese
它
traditional
看似
culture.
柔和缓慢，实则刚
And
劲
from
激
this
昂。它看似
video,
动
we
作
can
好
we
像
have the
是
streets, the
连绵不
reflection
断，
for the
但
martial
实际
arts.
上它更多是
It
一
seems
是
that
精神的连
it's
贯。因
no
此，我们看到
stop
这是
and
独特的动作
conception,
方式。
and actually it
我们的主题
reflect
是身体
our
的哲学是武
spirit.
术的表达，武术也是身体哲学的映射。我们看到每一个人在小的时候，
And
大家看到那个手抓的，
Of course, the
被
martial
婴儿
arts
时
is
候抓的
one
时候，
expression
其实
of
就是我们
human
不受影响
offensive and defensive
因此，我们发现我
instinct.
们每一个人呢，
Actually,
发
from
自
the
了
infant,
生理
they
中的
hook
无法
catch
本能，
something from
就是
the
武术
baby,
的
and
基
it's
本
one
动作
type
的
of
文
the
化体
action
现
of
的。
the Chinese
因此，
martial
你看我们
arts.
小的时候那个小孩
It's
这个动
one
作，其实是跟
extension
武
for
术
the
世界是
Chinese
相通的。
culture,
最后我们
and
得出一个小小的
you
结
can
论，
see like the
就是
babies to
人
catch
人都会跳
something.
舞。
It's the
阮老师，你相信
it's
吗？
similar as the Chinese martial arts
你
for
可能
basic
还是有
training,
疑惑。
and
我们这里呢，
everyone
就大家
can
体
do
会一下，
martial
我
arts.
们每
Maybe
个
you
人都
have
会练武术，
some
因为我们在
confusion
妈妈
for
肚里
this.
其实做的就是武术动作。它
And
一定
from
它
this, you
以后
can
它一定会
know
武术，
everyone
它
can do
所以
martial
我们
arts.
看到这一点
When,
非
when
常
we
有
are
趣。
in the
你
mother,
看，
when we
小孩
just
在妈
put
妈
a
肚里就
baby,
是练武术的。
and
或
from
打
this
篮
we
球，
can
他一定会练武术。
cannot
大
play
家请看，
basketball. They can do the martial arts.
注意看手和脚，
Pay
哎，
attention
你
to
看
the
他的
hands and the
弹
foot.
hands and kick， 而且还得动肚子，我们叫丹田。好，
And
那么这个动
he's
作就是
moved
我们武
his
术里的冲拳团团腿。很遗憾，如果下次有机会，我们可以现
from
场
this
练给大家看。而且你看刚才的动
we
作
can
和刚
sense
才
the
的动作是
fighting
完全
awareness
不同
and
的。
we
中
can
国
see
皇室
these
里
two
头叫
actions is
中西
mixed
二这个
for
结合，
us.
中国
And
文化叫
from
丹田，英语叫 center gravity， 然
from
后从中心发力。你看，
from
人
our
人都会
center
练武术。
gravity,
各位老师、各位同学，你们相信了吗？
and
是不是
from
练武
this
术
we
是
can
最
see
容易的？因
everyone
为你
can do
天生就
martial
会练武
arts
术。所以
because
我们
it's
说
our
人的
instinct
生存、生
and
活
for the
和
survival
生
of
命
the human
起源于
beings
武术。
as from the Chinese martial arts.
那我们看到了人人都会练武术，但是你发
And
现
we
武
can say
术
everyone
这
can
种
do the
文化是
play
在中国产生的。
martial arts,
当然
and
其
this
他的
culture
国家也有
is
自己不同的
originated
武
from
术，
China,
但是中国为什么会产
and
生这
we
样
use
的一种
different
的
skills.
特有的
And
形
why
态？
China
它
has
有
a
武
very
术法，又有套
special
路和
the
用法，
Chinese
这是
martial
中国的
arts.
文化和中
It
国大好山河、地理、物候和人文有关系。所以我们看到中国人是在
it's
自然的环境
connected
下
by
崇
the
尚自
natural
然，然
beauty,
后它是一个整体的观念，
and
并
its
且它是一
overall
个
concept
比类
of
取向的思
nature
维方
and
式。
the
就看到了鸟，
pictographic of
看到了小
thinking.
鸟，它就的动作就
When we
学
see
习
the
河流的连绵不断，小鸟的
rivers, see the
定
birds,
格，
we will imitate the
努力
action
的打开
of
翅
the
膀以
bird
后呢，有
and
了
the rivers.
排合亮翅的动作。
So
因
if
此
you
我
see
们
the
看到了
birds, we
中
can
国
like
武术它的
open
内
the
涵就是
wings.
中
You
国
can
的
see
智慧
this
的表达。
action from the
那么这
martial
种的表
arts,
现，我们跟
and
其他的地
it
域有关系，形成了
appears
鲜明的
it
对比。中国
reflected
的整体自然
reflected from the
和
Chinese
种类取向的思
civilization.
维，是中国武术里边大量的动作名称和动作造型里边都是来源于自然的东西。我们有
For the
白鹤
martial
亮
arts,
翅，
the
有
most
虎
of the
步排
name
开，
and the
所有的动作里边
actions
大量
is
的
from
动
the
作都是
nature.
汉语里边的
The different
俚语和美丽的形容，是一
like
个自然思
actions
想的
from
表
the
达。
idiom of the China, and
那
to
是
of
什
course
么
it's
可
the
以
one
产生这样的思
expressions
想呢？
for the
其实
thinking
我们
of
也特
China.
别的简
One
单，
time
但
to
是也特别的有意义。
occurs
就
and
是这样的
with
一个思
this
维方式，我们
thinking
仰观
is
天
very
空，
is
看
it
到
to
天上
describe
的自然现象，
and
会不
look
断
up
的
the
看到
sky
地下生物的
and
变
look
化，
down
在
the
远看着
soil
生物的
and
形
to
态
see
和
the
运动规律，
change
最后呢
and
一
to
气
see the
呵成，形成了我们
different
自身的一个运动方式。
things,
所以在中
the
国武术里有大量的模仿动物、
the
植物
regulations
等各
to
种自然现象的
become
动作名称
the
和动
concept
作
of
方
the
法。
martial arts.
举一个小例子，我们发现，你看我们武术里
For
边呀、有
example,
5个基本的步法，也叫步行，就是
in martial arts, we
马
have
步
5
就像骑
steps.
马一样，
First was a horse standing.
弓步就像我们登山一样。你看虚步
As arts,
chicken take the leg，
virtual
单腿支撑一下。
step
我们的瀑布就像叶子焯水一样，我们的歇步
and
就像一棵
prostrate
好的树盘
and the rest
每
stays
一个动作都
like
是来源
a
于自然界
tree
的，
stand in the soil
非常
and
的有趣，
every
也非常
step
的有意
from
思。
the
但
nature
是你们看到它不
and
简
it's
单，
very
为什么？
interesting.
你们看，它实际上这里边它包含了
You
很
can
好的一
see
个练习
from
方
this
式。
part is
我们就
it
把5个步
contains
一
the
连起来，
very
就
good
变成了一个
practice.
队列的形
If
式。
we
大家一起
practice
看，
the 5 steps, it become like a group of the land. And we can watch the video.
好，大家看的像有点像体操一样，但是它跟体操截然不同，它是充
It's
满了
like
攻
the
防含义。大家可以
gymnasium,
看。
but it's
好，我
different.
们要练成这
We
样。
can say
所以
one
我们
action
在摔摔打打中间提高了自己的体质和精神
who
状态。
will improve our
好，然后呢，我们刚才
the
说
body heals
武术
for
是
us.
身体的哲学，是身体的文化，是身体的
And
思想的表
martial
达。因此，你看五种
arts
修行里
is
边，
a
每个人都会
philosophy
做，
for
它
us.
实际代表了中
And
国人的一
from
种
the
思维
5
方式，
steps, it
它跟泰国武术
represents
是相匹配的。
the
意义
thinking
非
type
常
of Chinese
种步
people.
法
It
构成了一个完整的一个身体
combined
动作
with
的
the
规
Tai
律，
Chi and
而
the
且
5
代
step
表了中国人思考
combined
问
is
题
a
的
regulation
平
of the
衡、
for the
对
Chinese
称
people, and
和一
it's
种和的
also
平衡观，
ref
就非常简单的
reflect
所以这
the
我建议以后我们
balance
的同学应该练练这5种步法，让自己一
of
生
the
中都
Chinese
感觉
traditional
到
thinking. We also
活
recommend
山
that we
有路，
can use this 5
心口
step
有
and
树，生活很快乐。
make us feel very
好，
healthy
而且呢，每一
and
种步法练习过
with
程中都给
the
你一个不同的
stable
感觉。
belief
我们举
for
一个
us.
例子，你看那个马步像骑马
And
那样
you
的
have
拍
different
子，
feelings.
达到1
For
分
example,
20
the
秒，
horse
那
standing.
2分钟到5分钟
When
长
you
时
do
间，
the horse
消耗
standing
你非
up
常
to
重
1
要的一个
minute
肺
and
部
20
和
seconds,
腿
you
部力
can
量。所
up
以我
to
们也给大家做了
have
一个
a
简
very
单的
very
关于法
persistent
语的一个解释。我们举了一个马步，
spirit.
其
I
实每一个
will
东西
give
都有不同的练习方式，让自己通过身体练习，
a
一
different
个人
step
能
with
达
a
到精神
different
状态，而且让自
practice
己
and
通过生
improve
活来
our
说快乐
body
和
health
幸福
and
的
your spirit
感受。所以
state,
我们叫
and you can
体感
acquire
体的体
different
质，这是我们学习
different
中国文化非常重
acquisition
要的一
of
个
the
途径。
happiness and enjoy
说到
journey.
这儿以后呢，我们想
And
我们看武术，我们刚才分享了我
And
们在人体
as
的
we
包括
shared
文化的
the
关系，
martial
还有
arts,
一个很有趣的，我也建议各位老师我
we
们解
also
释一下。
have
我们
a
讲武
very
术讲
interesting
文化还讲
part.
礼仪，所以我们要下边
When
呢
we
再
when
请
we
各
see
位老师跟
culture
我
and
一起做一个动
etiquette,
作，一起学习一下。
we
任老
can
师，
do the same
来各
action.
位新来的
Everyone
各位
can
同学，
do
我
the
们
same
这
action
个
for
时
me.
候
You
你看
can
看，
follow
我们
me.
马上要做一个非常有趣的动作，就这样一个动作，来跟我一起做一下，全体都有。
We can do
3、
this
2、
action.
1，
Everyone
来
can
行
follow
报
me
典
to
礼。
this
对，
action.
把左手
We
放手
use
上，右手
the
放手
fist
上。
salute,
左手是我们
and
代表的 culture
and
文化，
the left
右手
hand
代表
is
的
up,
是
and
文武合一。
yeah,
对，
left
非常
hand
错，
represent
重
the
点。
culture, the
哇，
right
非常
hand
好，
represent
对，非常好，谢谢
the
你们。
martial
你看，
arts,
这就是一个
and
非
in
常
your
好的一个演
chest.
练，它是
It's
一个
very
演练。
good. Thank you so much.
表
It's
现
a
的
good,
是我手我将不卑不
it's
亢。
one appearance for the
好，谢谢各位。
language. Thank you so much for everyone.
说到这儿以后呢，武术有更多有趣的东西，今天我们给大家简单的展示一下。
For martial
我
arts,
们武
we
术
have
里边有
different
勾拳、
interesting
短打、
parts. We have the
南拳北腿、
long
东
fist,
枪西贡、
long
传中
strike,
打，
short
也有
strike,
18
image,
般兵
round,
脚
soft
刀枪铁
other.
戟斧钺钩叉鞭锏
We have
锤打
18
口供说
different
唱鬼子流星两面打。
weapons. It's a
武
different
因为时间关
actions.
系，我们不能展示太多。
Because of the
我们
time,
只
we
展示
cannot
几个有趣的
present
给大家看。
different types of the martial arts. We
这是
just
什么拳？阮老师能想象
show
吗？
several of it. And
这
this
是
is
8
what's
岁老人
this
练的
boxing?
猴拳，
And
让
what's
你
this
看看。
fist? Sure. It's the 80 years old to practice the monkey boxing. Monkey Chuan. We can watch a video.
刚才练拳的那个老师是80岁，我想我们各位老师如果练武术，80岁一样可以做前滚翻，
The
还
man
可以
plays
自由
this
世界各地
boxing
看
as
表演。
80 years old. He also
做
can
美
do
食。
very difficult
我
actions
们
for
看了老人
artists.
以
He
后，来
can
看看
go
年轻人怎么
around the
练。
world and experience different food around the world. We can see the young generation how to practice the fist position.
好了，我想阮老师下次专门做一个武术专场吧，我们时间不够了，所以呢，
Next
我们
time
往
we
下看，我
can
们有
do
131
a
个
specialty just
大众的武
for
术
Chinese
项目，
martial
因此
arts.
我们只能
We
是
have
简单的展示一
one
个。时间关系，我们看看
31.
蛇拳。
And now we can see the snake fist position.
这是专门美女练的蛇拳，今年是
It's
蛇年。
just for the beauty to practice this fist position, this boxing.
"好抱歉啊，因为时间关系，我们就最后
I
再看一
apologize
个更有
because
趣
of
的，我欢
time.
迎各位老
And
师和同学来
last,
看
we
看
can
这
see
个
very
新的
interesting.
烤鸭。
I welcome all the
烤鸭
people can come to China to eat Beijing roast duck. We can see the duck fist position. It's the duck fist position.
"好，又一位80岁老人练拳如此灵活，武术带给你终身的快乐呀！时间关系，我们就
So
直接
do the
到后
martial
面。
arts will make you
很
feel
多很多
happy
有趣的
for
东西，我们下
your
次专
lifelong.
场表。
And many different pins we can introduce later. Maybe in the later we can open,
中国人文化的精品就是
we can
人类
run
健康的
a webinar just
首
for
选
martial
的
arts.
方式之一。因此，我们还会看到
So for the
大
health
量的跟
and the
中国
martial
文化
arts
有
is the
关
first
系的
choice
东
for
西。
you. And also it will connecting with much concepts and values from the Chinese culture.
现在讲的是太极
Okay,
之两
yes.
仪，所有的动作和中国传统文化结合在一起的。
This is Tai Chi connected with the Chinese traditional culture. You can imitate the swans.
很多很有趣，但是时间很少，我最后必须
So
不
many
得不
different skills is very interesting. I will
大
speed
家
up.
最后分享一个小
At
的要
last,
素。
I will
就是我们今天
share
在中国的文化
one
叫宁请屈原，我们
things.
看到芭蕾舞叫开崩直立，不同的文化形态代表不同的民族性格，所以中国人
And different image imprint a different personality. For Chinese is very humble for all,
很
every
多很有趣
Chinese.
的，所以练太极拳一定
So
让你身体健康，
when you practice
心理
Tai Chi, it's
也让
good for your
自己的
health
身
and
体
good
更
for your
加
mental
舒服，
health.
让每个老师
For your
每位
physical
同学
health
如果
and
真正练好
mental
武术，我
health,
相信每个
it
人都
can
会
make
到
you
100岁。
be
目
balanced.
标是
If you
100
do
岁。
martial arts well, you can live to 100 years. Our goals is we can live
好，这是我们看到世界
up
各地练习
to
太
the
极拳的
120 years old for us.
拳种
We
的
can say
拳种的
different.
foreigners， 很
We
多
can
同学
see
很多
the
老师都喜欢
learners
中
from
国
around the world
这
to
是
do
在
the
日
Tai
本
Chi
在
and
日
the
本。
Chinese martial arts.
最
This
后
is
呢，
in
我想要说一句
Japan.
话，也欢迎
At
亚洲来
last,
北京
I
挑战，
would
继续学习武术。
I want to
后劲呢，
say
这是我在智利留下了我深刻的印象。2011年，
this
我在
as
智利
I
练
was
会
in
拳，
Chile
那
in
天依然在我
2015.
记忆中留下了不可磨灭的美好回忆。
It's
我希望以后一
unforgettable
辈子再
memory
跟你
for
们相聚。
us.
最
If
后
I
呢，
have
我要说一句
the
话，作为
chance,
中
we
国人，作为
want
世
a
界人，
reunion
我
in
们
Chile.
人
Last
不练武术，或多或少说是遗憾。
and
谢
as
谢
a
各位老师，
people,
谢
it's
谢各位同学，欢迎
it
来
is
到
a
中国，欢迎
pity
我们一起
not
学习，
to
欢
learn
迎一起
the
分
martial
享
arts.
中国文化
Thank
健
you
康
for
的快
all
乐
the
和健康。
students and
谢
the
谢各位，我讲到这里。
teachers. Thank you so much. Welcome to all of you can come to China to martial arts to learn to experience the Chinese traditional culture. Thank you so much all the friends from Latin America.
Muchas gracias, Profesor Wudong.
Thank you very
Quiero
much,
agradecer
Professor Wudong. I would
sinceramente
also like
su
to
magnífica exposición
thank you for
y
your
decirle
wonderful
además que
presentation.
nos
And I also wanted to
comprometemos
add that
desde
we are
ya y lo
committed
haremos
as
este
of
año a
now,
una
and we will
sesión
do so this year.
específica
We
solo de
want to
Wushu
have
para que
a
usted nos
specific
haga
Wushu session so
una
you
clase
can
maestra
give us a
para toda
masterclass
América
for
Latina
all of
y el
Latin
Caribe.
America and the
Así
Caribbean.
que lo organizaremos para
So
este
we will
año,
organize
Profesor
that
Wudong,
for this
y
year,
como
Professor Wudong.
siempre sería
And
muy
as always,
bienvenido poder
you will be
recibirlo aquí en
most welcome,
Chile
and we'll
y
be
en otros
delighted to
países
host
de
you here in
América
Chile
Latina.
and
Muchas
also other
gracias.
Latin
谢谢.
American countries. So thank you very much. 谢谢.
A continuación,
So
quiero
now,
presentar a ustedes
I would like
al
to
segundo
introduce you now to
panelista,
the second panel member,
el señor Marcelo
Mr.
Director
Marcelo
Nacional del
Cortés,
Área de
National
Actividad
Director
Física y
of the Physical
Deportes
Activity and
de
Sports
Santo Tomás en
Department of
Chile,
Santo Tomás
ingeniero
University in
comercial
Chile,
y licenciado
commercial
en
engineer with a
Administración de
bachelor
Empresas
in business
por la Universidad de
administration
Santiago de
by the
Chile,
University of Santiago de
profesor de
Chile, a
Estado en
state
Educación
professor in
Física,
physical
Deportes
education,
y
sports and
Recreación
recreation
por la Universidad
from the
Metropolitana de
Metropolitan
Ciencias de la
University of
Educación.
Education
A lo
Sciences.
largo de su
Throughout
trayectoria
his
ha
career,
ocupado
he
diversos
has held
cargos,
various positions,
entre ellos
including
asesor financiero,
financial and
proyectos en el
project
Instituto
advisor
Nacional
at the
del
National
Deporte de
Sports
Chile,
Institute in
director
Chile,
socio de inversiones
director and
deportivas
partner of
Sociedad
investments
Anónima,
of
analista
Deportiva
de
Sociedad
mercado
Anónima,
y
market
además
analyst, and
jefe de
also
carrera
he has been
en las
the
instituciones
teaching at Santo
Tomás.
Tomás
Además, ha sido docente
University and also has been a
académico en la
professor
Pontificia Universidad
in
Católica de Chile y
Catholic
el
University of
Instituto
Chile
Profesional
and the
Duoc
Professional
UC de Chile.
Institute Duoc
Y él
UC in
presentará
Chile as well.
una
And he will be
mirada
presenting
hacia
a
el
look
desarrollo
towards the
del deporte.
development of
Bienvenido,
sports.
Marcelo. Muchas gracias.
Welcome, Marcelo. Thank you so much.
Roberto y a
Good
toda
morning,
la audiencia. Muchas
Roberto,
gracias por
and
esta
everyone who
invitación.
is
Muy
present today.
interesante la
Thank you
charla
so
que
much for
dio
invitation. This is a
el
very
profesor
interesting talk that we just
Udon. Y después
heard by
quiero hablar
Professor
un
Wudong.
poco
And I wanted
acerca
to speak a
de,
little bit about,
les voy a comenzar a presentar,
I'll start sharing my screen now,
de una visión distinta de cómo
of
se
a
relaciona
different
el
vision of
deporte
how we relate
de,
sports
de China con Chile y de
in
qué manera
China
nosotros
and
podemos
Chile, and
proyectar
how can
hacia
we
el futuro.
project this into the future.
Vuelvo a presentarme. Mi nombre es
So
Marcelo
I am
Cortés
Marcelo
y quiero
Cortés,
y vuelvo a agradecer esta
and
invitación
I would like to
a
thank you again
Roberto
for
y a
this
toda la
invitation
gente
to
de la
Roberto
transmisión.
and to everyone from the Clark Foundation.
Antes de
Before
de poder entrar ya al tema propiamente
we
tal,
can go into
yo
the
quería
issue itself.
mostrarles, ¿cierto?
I
Y hablar
wanted
un
to
poco de la
show
historia
you
del
and wanted to
deporte en
speak
el
about the
mundo,
history of
cómo
sports
se
in
ha
the
ido
world first.
adaptando a lo largo del
How has it
tiempo,
been
según las
adapted through
necesidades y
time
los contextos
based on
sociales
the
de cada una
needs
de las
and the
épocas,
social context
desde
of
las
the
raíces
times,
en las antiguas
from the roots
civilizaciones
in the old
hacia la
civilizations all the
prominencia de la
way
sociedad
to the
contemporánea
prominence
actual.
of the
También
contemporary
quiero tocar un
societies.
poco lo que
I
es
also wanted to
la
touch on
definición del
the
deporte.
definition
El
of
deporte se
sports.
define muy
Sports is
básicamente,
defined very
genéricamente,
basically,
una
very
actividad física
generically, as a
y
physical activity
mental
and a mental
que
activity
implica
as well
competición,
that
acción, esfuerzo
implies
humano
competition, skill,
y
and
conlleva
human
una
effort.
gran
So
cantidad de
this leads
actividades que van desde
to
los juegos
a
como
range of
grandes juegos
activities going from
colectivos y de
individual
alta
games to
competencia y se
collective
puede
and
practicar de
competition
manera
sports,
recreativa
and it can be practiced
como profesional.
recreationally as well as professionally.
Quiero mostrarle una visión
I
evolutiva,
also
no es
wanted
una
to
línea del
show you
tiempo, pero sí una
an
visión evolutiva
evolution
del
vision of
deporte que nos va a
sports. It's not a
llevar
timeline,
como
but
contexto
it's
a
a
centrarnos en
view
el
from
tema
the
propiamente
evolutionary
tal.
point of view.
Primero vemos que el deporte
First, we
nace
see that sports
en
is
las
born
antiguas civilizaciones de
in
Grecia
the
y
ancient
Roma
civilizations of
y
Greece
aparece
and Rome,
en su
and then
inicio
at the beginning
como actividades como la lucha.
is an activity that we have
Posteriormente aparecen
activities such as
carreras y
wrestling, then we
lanzamientos
have
en los
races
primeros
and
Juegos
throws
Olímpicos
in the
de
first
Grecia,
Olympic Games in
¿ya?
Greece.
En la evolución del deporte
In
también
the evolution of
vemos
sports,
que
we also
se
see
produce en la Edad Media
that
una
we also
incorporación de algunos
get in the
deportes
Middle
que
Ages
tienen
some
relación con la
adding
caza, con la
sports that
pesca
are
y la
related to
navegación.
hunting,
Pero aquí hay que tener
fishing,
una visión
and
también
and
distinta
horseback riding. So
porque
here we
aquí
need to
hay
have a
una
different vision
influencia de la
because there is an
Iglesia,
influence here
principalmente
of the
católica,
church,
que
especially the
significa un
Catholic
declive en
Church,
la
that
práctica
means a
deportiva.
decline in sports
Si
practice.
continuamos en esta línea
If we
evolutiva del
continue in this
deporte,
evolution
nos
line of
encontramos ya
sports,
en el
we will find ourselves
Renacimiento y en el
in the
humanismo
Renaissance and the
con un aumento del
humanistic
interés por
movement,
la cultura
where there is
física
an
y surgen
increase
algunos
of
deportes
interest in the
excepcionales
in
de
the
estos
physical
periodos,
culture.
como el
And some
fútbol y
sports
el
come
tenis en
from these
Europa.
periods, such as
Pero había que hacer
football
algo un
and
poco más
tennis in
allá.
Europe. But
Y ya
something needed to be
aparecen
done further.
posteriormente, ya en la
And
era
later
moderna,
we get in the modern
los
times
clubes deportivos. ¿Qué son los
the
clubes
sports
deportivos?
clubs. What are sports
Aquellas
clubs?
entidades
So
que
these
asocian
are
deportes
these
y a los
entities
cuales
that
las personas
associate
pueden ir
sports
a
and where people can
practicar algún
just
tipo de
go and
deporte
practice any type of
específico.
sports that is
Después de la
specific.
aparición de los clubes, comenzaron
After
a
the
aparecer las
clubs,
federaciones
we started getting
deportivas,
the
las
sports
organizaciones,
federations,
aparece el Comité Olímpico
groups, we get
Internacional
the International
y nos
Olympic
encontramos,
Committee, and then we found
¿cierto?,
ourselves
con los Juegos Olímpicos modernos,
with the modern
que es
Olympic
el evento
Games,
deportivo más
which is the
importante
most
que tiene
important sports event
nuestro planeta
in the
y en el
planet,
cual compite una
and
gran cantidad
where
de
we have a
países.
competition of a
Y
great
nos ha
number of
permitido
countries.
ver que en el último
And
Juego
this has
Olímpico
allowed us to
que
see
se
that in the
realizaron
last
en
Olympic
París,
Games done in
dos
Paris,
grandes potencias
two big
en el
powers
deporte
in
llegaron hasta
sports
la última competencia para
went to
definir
the last
quién era el
competition to
primero
define
en el
who was
medallero.
going to be first
¿Y a quién me
in the
refiero?
Olympic medals.
Estados
And what do
Unidos
I mean?
y China.
United States and China.
Hay otras competencias que son
So there's
importantes
other
también que han
competitions that
surgido
are
con el tiempo,
important that
como
have come
son
in
el
time, such
Campeonato
as
Mundial de Fútbol
the
y
World
el Tour de
Championship of
France.
Soccer and the Tour
Pero
de
ahora quiero
France.
detenerme un
But now
poco
we'd like to
en
stop a little
por qué
bit
China en el
on
último
why
tiempo ha
China
evolucionado
in
tanto
the
en el
latest
desarrollo
time has
deportivo y
evolved
ha
so much
ha tenido tantos
in the
logros
sports development, and why have there
deportivamente e
been so many
internacionalmente.
sport achievements
Veamos
internationally?
algunos conceptos
Let's
básicos.
look at some basic concepts.
Primero, el desarrollo del
First,
deporte en
the
China
development
ha
of
sido muy
sports in
notable,
China has been
tanto a
quite
nivel nacional
remarkable,
como
both at a
internacional,
national and international
debido a
level,
las políticas
because
gubernamentales
of the
que
government
son muy
policies
estructuradas
that are
y
very
ordenadas.
structured and very
La
organized.
política del deporte en China está
The policy of
profundamente
sports in
influenciada por
China
el
is
gobierno
deeply
central
influenced
y
by the
sigue una
central
estructura
government
organizada y
and follows an
jerárquica que
organized
abarca desde la
hierarchical
detección
structure that
temprana
comprehends
de los
from the early
talentos
detection of
hasta el
talent
fomento del
all the way
deporte en la
through the
población
promotion of
general.
sports in the general
El
population.
sistema ha evolucionado a lo largo de
The
décadas,
system
pero
has
siempre
evolved
ha
through the
tenido
decades,
un
but
eje
has always
central
had
y el
a
enfoque está
central
dado por el
axis, and this
Estado,
target is
¿ya?
given by the state,
Donde promueve, ¿cierto?,
where
el
they
deporte
promote
como una
sports
herramienta,
as a tool
¿ya?, de desarrollo nacional, de prestigio
of national
internacional
development,
y de
international
bienestar social.
prestige, and social well-being.
Dentro de esta estructura de evolución del deporte en
Within this
China, vemos
structure of
algunos
evolution
aspectos
of
que llaman
sports in
mucho la
China, we see
atención.
some aspects that are
Como
calling our
lo
attention quite a lot.
expliqué
Such
anteriormente, la
as I explained
política y el
before,
enfoque
the
gubernamental. O sea,
policy and
acá
the
el
government
gobierno ha
target.
jugado un papel
So the
clave
government
en
has
la
played a
promoción del
key
deporte a
role
nivel
in the promotion
competitivo,
of sports at a competitive
desde la
level
infancia hasta la elite.
from
Después
childhood
podemos
all the
ver
through elite sports. We see that in this sport development, we see a centralization of the sports systems, more specifically given by the National Committee, by the Olympic Charities Committee, and the Ministry of Education and Sports in China. For the development of the high competence, we can observe that the systems for high performance in China allow for a system and they use a system of detection and training of sports talent that allow to spread sports between the academia and the school. So we can later add this to strictly to more professional sports. There is this focus of high performance in China, and this has been mostly centered on achieving competition in Asian and Olympic Games. When you speak about sports development, this goes hand in hand with the development of the sports infrastructure. And this has happened mainly thanks to the international events that China has developed in its territory, as it was the Olympic Games of Peking 2008 and the Winter Olympic Games of 2022. But also, China has important challenges in the evolution of sports, has achieved great successes. But one of the main or most important challenges is the sports diversification and also the development of some sports that are less popular among the Chinese population. What are the most popular sports in China? And here we're speaking more and touching on some things that are more specific. We have table tennis as the national sport of China, but it is widely practiced. So badminton, football, basketball, and athletics are well practiced. Running has become the most important sports within these recreational sports that we've been adding. China also has a sports event, a national sports event that is quadrennial, very similar to the Olympics, and these are the national games in China. So this has led to China evolving and being positioned as a power at a world level, and also is the main or the second most important at a world level too. Let's look at what happens in my country, in Chile, so I can later relate these to these two cultures. In Chile, the structure of sports in Chile is organized in several levels and is made up by different entities working together. The first one is the Ministry of Sports, which is in charge of the promotion and development of sports in Chile. It's in charge of making policies, programs, and projects. But it also has the right-hand side, which is the National Sports Institute, IND, which is the operational arm of the Ministry of Sports, and that is the manager of the policies of this ministry. But we also have another entity, a private entity, that groups the National Sports Federations of Chile, which is the Olympic Committee of Chile. This Olympic Committee has a mission of promoting the development of high-performance sports in the country, and also wants to have a transparent governance that will contribute, together with the Sport Federation, to the improvement of the management capacity in sports, contributing to the excellence of the sports people, directors, and administrators. Given this structure, I'll present you a problem that we see in Chile in sports. So we can talk about it with you and how we've been evolving with this and how have we been working with this. The biggest problem we have in Chile is the training of sports coaches. Why? Because this training is very basic. Generally speaking, the coaches are former sports people that don't have any formal training in being a coach. So therefore, when we require to progress in sports development, in improving certain sports techniques, we find ourselves a halt. So we have our system made up as the Ministry of Sports and the Chilean Committee of Chile and the sports clubs. Each one of these organizations makes an independent offer with degrees of quality that they differ. There's no acknowledgement among the stakeholders or academics acknowledgement, which makes people's professional development almost impossible. Federations, to the most extent, don't have a training system or academic training program. If you go to the educational system of Chile, this is made up mainly by universities and the professional institutes and and the
que cada una de
professional
estas
centers.
instituciones educacionales
Each one of these
tiene
educational
alguna, que tiene
institutions
alguna vinculación con el
has
deporte,
a
efectúa
link
una
with
oferta de
sports,
formación
and they
independiente y
have
diferente.
a supply of
Esta
information that is
oferta
different,
carece de
and this
vinculación con las
supply
necesidades del
does not
deporte
have a link with the
federado en
needs
Chile.
of
Y
federated sports
además
in Chile,
no
and
responde a las
also does
necesidades de
not respond
competencias
to the
o las
needs of
competencias que debe
competitions
tener
or the
como formación un
competences
entrenador
that
federado.
a federated trainer
Frente
should
a esta
have.
visión tan distinta
Seeing this
de
very
las
different
diferentes
vision
entidades en nuestro país,
of different entities in this
Santo
country,
Tomás con el Comité
Santo
Olímpico de
Tomás
Chile,
and the Olympic
que es la
Committee of
organización
Chile,
que yo represento,
Santo Tomás is the institution
presentó
I
una
represent,
propuesta
presented a proposal
en la cual
where
este sistema
this
deportivo
system, the sports system
que está de la mano con el Comité
that
Olímpico de
is
Chile,
hand in hand with the Olympic Committee of
se
Chile
une al sistema educacional
joins the educational system,
que nos permite obtener una serie de
and this
beneficios,
allows
como
us to have a
cuáles
number of benefits, such
la
as,
inserción
for
al
instance,
sistema
the
educacional
insertion
formal de los
to the
entrenadores
formal educational
deportivos.
system of
Hay
sports
una
coaches.
vinculación entre el
There is
sistema
a
educacional
link between the
educación
educational
superior
system
y el
for
sistema
higher
deportivo
education
propiamente tal,
and the
que no
sports system
existe.
itself that does not
Hay una
exist.
regulación de los
There's a
entrenadores y una
regulation
capacitación
of
que va
trainers
mucho
and
más
also a
allá.
training that goes beyond that.
¿Y cómo se llama esto? Se
And
llama
how is this
la Escuela
cool?
Nacional de
This is the
Entrenadores.
National School of
Esta
Trainers.
Escuela Nacional de Entrenadores ya la
This
estamos
National School of
trabajando
Trainers we're
hace
working
más
on
de
already,
16,
and we've been
17,
doing so for
perdón,
16,
14 años.
14 years now.
Y nos ha permitido
And this has
incorporar
allowed us to
sistemáticamente, paulatinamente, a estos
systematically
entrenadores a
add
un sistema mucho
high
más formal.
trainers to a more formal system.
Con esto hay una
With
voluntad política de
these,
los
there's a
actores
political
del
willingness
deporte
of the
nacional, como son
stakeholders of
el
national sports,
Comité Olímpico,
such as the
Santo
Olympic
Tomás como
Committee, Santo
institución de educación
Tomás
superior y
as
las
higher
federaciones
education
nacionales
institutions,
deportivas,
and the national
donde
sports
presentamos el
federations, where we
reconocimiento
present
formación
an
del sistema
acknowledgement to the
deportivo
training
federado y además un
of the
reconocimiento académico
federated
por una
system, and
formación,
also
por una
an
institución formadora
academy
como Santo
system by a
Tomás.
training institutions such as it is
Acá
the
les
case of
presento
Santo
el
Tomás.
sistema
Here, I'd like to
educacional
present
chileno,
you the Chilean
en el cual
educational
ustedes
system,
pueden ver
where you can see
que en la
that
educación media, básica
in
de
high
niños y
school education
adolescentes,
for children and
después, al
adolescents,
terminar esta educación,
when they
estas personas
finish
pueden
this
pasar al
training,
sistema
people
laboral.
can go on to the
Pero los
work
que quieren seguir
market. For
estudiando
those who want to continue
la
studying
educación superior, que es la que
in
está
higher
arriba,
education,
tienen
which
que
is
dar una
up
prueba
here,
de
they need to
acceso a la
have
educación
they need to
superior
take an
para
access
poder
test for
empezar a
higher
estudiar
education,
en los
so they
centros de
can
formación
begin
técnica,
studying
en los
in
institutos
vocational
profesionales o
institutions, in professional
universidades, que
institutes, or
posteriormente les
universities.
permitirían que estas
And
personas
that would
pudiesen
later allow
pasar
for these
a
people to
estudiar
go
un
on
postítulo,
to
posgrado,
study
como
with
llamado
a
magíster universitario.
PhD or diploma, an
Aquí
MA or
aparece
PhD.
la Escuela
So,
Nacional de Entrenadores,
so here we get this
en el cual
National School of
permite que
Coaches,
estos
where
entrenadores que no
these
tienen
allow for
ninguna
these trainers
formación
that had no
puedan
training
entrar,
per se,
¿cierto? Y
can
obtener un
go
título técnico de
and
nivel
obtain
superior en un
a
deporte
technical, a
específico,
higher level technical degree in a
para
specific sport.
posteriormente
So they can
pasar
later
a una
go
universidad,
to a
como la
university,
Universidad Santo Tomás,
to
y
Santo Tomas
proyectar sus
University,
estudios
and maybe
quizás a un diplomado o un magíster
continue their
universitario.
studies to an MA, a PhD, or
Este
something
itinerario
else.
de formación
So this itinerary
fue
of training
reconocido
was acknowledged
por el Instituto Internacional de Planeamiento de la Educación y la
by
UNESCO,
the Institute and
en el
UNESCO,
cual aparece
where
un estudio de
we
las vías
see
flexibles de
a study of
aprendizaje
the
en la
flexible
educación superior
paths of
chilena,
learning in higher education in Chile
elaborado por el CINDA y el
that
CENET.
is done by
Y
Cinda
aquí se
and
presenta
CENET.
el caso de Santo
So here we
Tomás
present the case of
y del
Santo
Instituto
Tomás
de Ciencias del
and
Deporte, al
the
cual yo pertenezco,
Institute of
donde
Science and
está Santo
Sports, where I
Tomás, como
belong to, where we
decía, el
have
Centro de
Santo Tomás
Formación Técnica del
University,
Comité Olímpico y
the
además otras
Technical Training
instituciones que nos
Center
están
for the
apoyando,
Olympic Committee,
como
and
la
also
Federación
other
de
supporting
Deportistas
institutions such
Nacional,
as the
el
National Sports
CEAFIFA
Federations,
y
the
además la
CIFIFA,
Universidad Poitiers de Francia.
and also the Poitiers University of France.
Esto es, en resumidas cuentas, la Escuela
So this
Nacional de
is
Entrenadores. Quizás a lo
the
mejor a
National
ustedes
School of Coaches that maybe you,
no les queda muy claro, muy confuso,
maybe you don't have
pero
a lot of
quería
clarity of
mostrarles
what
esta
this is, but I
lámina
wanted
que
to
permite
show
a
you the
una
slides that
persona
allows
sin
a
ningún
person
tipo de
that
formación
has no
formal
form of training,
reconocer
no
sus
formal training,
aprendizajes
they
previos
can
como
acknowledge the previous
deportista,
learning as
como
sports
experiencia que
people,
tiene,
as
entrar al
experience they've
sistema
gained.
de educación
They are allowed
superior
to go into
chileno
the higher
a una
education
carrera técnica y posteriormente quizás
system in
pasar
Chile, go
a
to a
una
technical
carrera
degree, maybe
universitaria,
later go to a university degree,
posteriormente complementar esto
later
con
complement
postítulos, que
this
son los
with
diplomados, o
a
pasar por algún
post
posgrado, algún magíster
a
o algún
title
doctorado.
studies, or maybe go to an MA or PhD.
Pero ahora, ¿cómo vinculamos El deporte
Now,
entre Chile
how
y
do we
Chile,
link sports
que
between
es la temática que nos une y
China
nos
and
comenta.
Chile? And this is the topic that brings us together now.
Algunas cosas importantes.
Some important
Tenemos a
things.
China,
So we have
casi
China
1.400 millones de habitantes,
with
en lo cual
1.4
el
billion
mundo
inhabitants,
deportivo,
where
Chile
the
es una
sports
potencia
field,
olímpica,
Chile is a
El apoyo estatal en
an
China
Olympic power.
a
State
sus
support
deportistas incluye
in China
educación, oportunidades de
to
carrera
sports people
postdeportiva
includes
y cuidados de la
education,
salud. Y también
healthcare,
un sistema integral
post-career
permite que los atletas puedan
opportunities,
concentrarse
and also a
principalmente
comprehensive
en su
system that
rendimiento.
allows
¿Qué pasa en Chile?
athletes to focus
País
on their
pequeño,
performance.
casi
What happens in
19
Chile? A
millones de
small
habitantes,
country, 19 million
donde
inhabitants
el ámbito
only,
deportivo
where the
no está
sports
desarrollado.
environment
Chile es
is
un
not
país en
developed.
vías de
Chile is
desarrollo
a
deportivo,
developing country
en el
and also
cual
developing
existe un
country
apoyo estatal,
sports-wise,
pero
where
bajo
there is a
ciertas
state
condiciones y
support, but
resultados
under
deportivos
certain
que tienen que tener los
conditions
atletas.
and under certain results that the
Se ha
athletes
ido
need to
avanzando
comply
para
with.
lograr un
We've been
reconocimiento al
progressing
atleta, pero
to
todavía
achieve an
es
acknowledgement of
precario.
the athletes, but this is still very precarious.
Entonces, ¿cómo vinculamos
So
este
then,
deporte
how
a
do we
Chile y
link
Chile?
the sport of China and Chile?
China y Chile tienen una relación
China
bilateral
and
que se
Chile have a
caracteriza por un
bilateral
intercambio político,
relationship
económico y
characterized
comercial
by
muy
a
importante.
political, economic, and
El deporte en
commercial
China y Chile
exchange.
se pueden
Sports
vincular
in
a través
China
de
and
la
Chile
práctica
can
de
be
deportes
linked through the
competitivos,
practice of competitive
¿ya?
sports,
Pero principalmente la importancia que se le da a la aptitud física, principalmente en
the
China. Pero
importance
aquí hay algo
of
que nos
physical
puede unir
fitness
y
is
que
also
puede
given in
complementar en nuestro
China
trabajo.
very strongly, and there's something that
Vincular
can
el deporte
complement our
en
work.
Chile con
We
el
can
idioma
link
chino
sports in
o
Chile
chino
with
puede ser una
Chinese
excelente
language,
manera de
can
fomentar
be
el
an
intercambio
excellent way
cultural y
of
educativo
promoting
entre ambos países. Y esta es la clave.
cultural and sports exchange among the two countries. And this is my
Para
point.
fomentar
In order
cómo
to
vincular
promote,
ahora,
so
¿cierto? El idioma
first, how do
chino
we link
con el
Chinese
deporte.
language with sports?
Aquí podemos tener, y
So
yo les voy a
here
presentar varios
we can have, and
ejemplos
I'll
de
be giving you several
vinculación que nos pueden
examples
acompañar
of
para
how
desarrollar
bonds
e
and that can
incorporar
join us
parte
so
de
we
la
can
cultura china
develop and
en nuestro
incorporate part of the Chinese culture
y en
for our
nuestra
sports
población.
people and in our
Para fomentar el
population as well.
aprendizaje del
In
idioma,
order
se
to
pueden
promote the
ofrecer cursos de
learning of a
China en clubes
language, we can offer
deportivos e
Chinese
instituciones,
courses in sports
¿cierto?
clubs and
Que promuevan
institutions
el deporte.
that will
Este
promote
puede ayudar a
sports.
los
This
atletas y
can help
entrenadores
athletes
chilenos a
and
comunicarse
Chilean
mejor
coaches
con
to
sus counterparts
communicate
chinas,
better with their Chinese
especialmente
counterparts,
si
especially
participan en competencias
if they
internacionales.
participate in international competitions.
Se puede fomentar la organización de
We
programas de
can also
intercambio entre
promote
deportistas
the
chilenos que viajan a Chile y viceversa.
we can
Durante
also
este
promote the organization
intercambio,
of
los
exchange programs
participantes pueden
where
aprender
Chilean
sobre
sports
las
people
tradiciones
travel to
deportivas de
China
cada
and the other
país
way around,
y además permite
where this
practicar el
exchanges the
idioma.
participants can learn about the sports
Programar
traditions
eventos
of each
deportivos
country and practice the
bilingües
language. We
sería
can
una
also
gran
do
alternativa.
bilingual sports events. That
En
would be a great
competencias que
alternative
involucren
in
equipos de China y de
competitions that
Chile.
involve Chinese and
Y se
Chilean
pueden
teams.
implementar
And we can
actividades y
also implement
materiales
activities and
informativos en ambos
materials
idiomas.
that are informative in
Esto
both
no solo
languages.
facilitaría la
This would not only
comunicación entre los
facilitate the communication
deportistas,
between the sports
entrenadores y
people,
participantes,
coaches, and
sino que
participants,
también
but it would
enriquecería la
also will
experiencia
enrich the
de todos
experience
los que están
of everyone
participando.
involved.
También promocionar los deportes
Also,
chinos en Chile,
promoting
como la
Chinese
introducción de
sports
deportes
in
tradicionales
Chile.
chinos, como el Tai
Introduce
Chi o el
traditional
Wushu que
sports such
hablaba
as
el
Tai
profesor
Chi or
Wudong,
Wushu, as the Professor
¿ya?
Wudong was
Esto
mentioning
podría
before.
incluir clases
So
y
these could
talleres,
include
¿ya?
classes and
De
workshops
enseñar estos deportes
where we
karate,
can teach these
principalmente su
sports
técnica particular
and their
y el
sports
vocabulario
technique
chino
and also the
relacionado.
Chinese vocabulary related to the sport.
Incentivar las
We can also
colaboraciones,
promote
además,
the
con
collaboration as well
instituciones chinas, donde se
with
establezcan
Chinese
alianzas
institutions,
con
where we
universidades o
establish
academias deportivas
alliances
en
with
China
institutions
para
or school
desarrollar
academies in
programas
Chile
conjuntos que incluyan el
to develop
aprendizaje
joint
del
programs that
idioma
will include
y
the
la
learning of
práctica
the language
deportiva.
and
Está
also the sport
muy de la
practice,
mano.
which is hand in hand.
Vamos un poquito más con tecnología,
Let's
crear contenido
go
en redes
now with
sociales o blogs
technology,
que
maybe
hablen sobre el
create
deporte en
social
Chile y en China,
network content or
utilizando
blogs that
ambos
sport
idiomas.
about
Esto puede
that
atraer a
talk about
mayores
sports in Chile and
desarrollo
China
y
using both
fomentar el
languages. They can
interés por
reach a
aprender el
bigger
idioma
audience and
chino
also
y su
promote the
cultura.
interest of learning Chinese language and its
Y la
culture.
creación de
And also
material
the
didáctico con el
creation of
propósito de
didactic
desarrollar
material with the
recursos
purpose of
educativos
developing
que
educational
integren el
resources
aprendizaje
that
del
will
chino con
integrate
el
the learning of
deporte,
Chinese
como
with
diccionarios de
sports,
términos deportivos
such as
en chino y en
dictionaries
español
of
o
sports
guías de
terms in
entrenamiento en
Chinese
línea.
and Spanish or bilingual training guides.
Esta ha sido mi presentación
So this was my presentation.
y quería empezar, y como
And
lo
I
dije
wanted,
anteriormente,
as I said
vimos
so
una
before,
visión un
we
poco histórica
saw
del
a
deporte, el
historic vision
desarrollo
of
del deporte
sports,
en China,
development of
cómo o
sports
qué
in
es lo que ocurre
China,
en Chile
how
y cómo nosotros
what happens
podemos
in Chile, and
vincular
how
el
can we
deporte chino
link Chinese
con
sports with Chilean sports, but mainly using tools of languages, and this would facilitate the development of our sports at a national level so much more. And like this, we can project ourselves in the future as a more developed country. Thank you so much.
Muchas
Let's meet
gracias,
later.
Marcelo. Muchas gracias además por la
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you as
excelente
well
presentación que vinculó muy bien
for
lo que se
the
hace
brilliant
en
presentation that
China y lo
really
que hacemos en
linked what is
Chile,
done
con la
in
diferencia,
China
sin
and what we do
duda,
in Chile, for the difference, of
no
course,
solamente
not
del
only
tamaño de los países, sino que
of the
también de la
size
importancia que
of
se
the
le da
countries,
al
but also the
deporte.
importance
Pero así también
that sports
cómo
get,
la
but
academia
also how the
puede
academia
lograr un acercamiento
can manage to
entre
get an approach
los
between
países.
the
La
countries.
Universidad de Deportes
The
de
University
Beijing,
of
una
Sports of
universidad con la
Beijing,
que
and
también
this is a
existen muchos
university that
convenios y
also has a lot
interés
of
por
agreements
generar
and
actividades
interest
en
for
conjunto y sin
generating
duda alguna
joint
creo que es
activities.
un
And of
área que
course,
podemos
without a
ir
doubt, I believe
acercando
this is an
entre
area that we
China y
can
América
approach between
Latina,
China and Latin
haciendo como
America
antes lo
by
llevábamos a hacer
seeing
algunas
how we
giras
can
de
do some
especialistas y ahora sobre
tours
todo en
for
el área
specialists
del
before,
deporte.
and now
Muchas
especially in the
gracias,
sports
Marcelo.
area. Thank you very much, Marcelo. Thanks to you.
Quiero a continuación
I would
presentar a
like now to
nuestro
introduce
panelista,
our
Luis
panel
Antonio
member, Luis
Paulino,
Antonio Paulino.
profesor asociado de la
He's an
Universidad
associate
Estadual
professor of
Paulista
the
en la
Universidad
Facultad de
Estadual
Filosofía y
Paulista in the
Ciencias,
School of Philosophy
en
and
el programa de
Sciences, in the
licenciatura en
undergraduate
Relaciones
program in
Internacionales y
International
el programa de
Relations
posgrado
and the
en Ciencias
postgraduate
Sociales.
program in Social
Es licenciado en
Sciences.
Ingeniería,
He holds a bachelor's
máster en
degree
Economía y
in
Finanzas
engineering and
Públicas y
master's
doctor
degree
en
in
Ciencias
economic and public finances
Económicas.
and a PhD in economics.
Director del
He's
Instituto
the director of the
Confucio
Confucius
de la
Institute
Universidad
at
Estadual
the
Paulista,
Paulista
supervisor y
State University,
capacitado del
a guest
programa
supervisor of
Master
the
of Teaching
Master
Chinese
of Teaching
Language to
Chinese
Speaker
Language
and
to
Other
Speakers
Languages de
of
la
Other Languages
Universidad de
program
Hubei,
at Hubei University,
investigador del
and
Instituto de Estudios
researcher at the
Latinoamericanos
Institute
de la
of Latin American
Universidad de
Studies at
Hubei.
Hubei
Fue
University.
miembro titular
He
y
was a full
honorario
and
del
honorary
Consejo de
member of
Hanban,
the Hanban
asesor
Council.
especial del
He was the
Ministerio de
special advisor of the
Hacienda,
Ministry of Finance,
subsecretario de la Secretaría de
Undersecretary of
Coordinación
the
Pública y
Secretariat of Political
Asuntos
Coordination and
Internacionales de
Institutional
la
Affairs
Presidencia de
of
la
the Presidency of
República
the
y
Republic,
jefe de
and Chief
asesores del
Advisor
Ministerio
to
de
the Ministry of
Deportes
Sports
entre el año
from
2012
2012
y
to
2014. Él
2014.
presentará
He will
actualmente el
present
papel de
now
deporte
the
en
role
las
of sports
relaciones
in
Brasil-China.
Brazil-China relations.
Bienvenido, Paulino, y muchas
Welcome,
gracias por estar con
Paulino,
nosotros.
and thank you so much for being with us. Thank you very much, Roberto, for the invitation, for this participation in this very important discussion on such an important topic related to the role of sports, not only in international relations, but specifically the part of friendship between Latin America and China. As Roberto already mentioned, I'm going to speak a little bit about the role of sports, the relationship between Brazil and China, and particularly what is the role of the Confucius Institute, and the role the Institute has played in these relations for Brazil and China. So Brazil and China have hundreds of agreements for cooperations that are very diverse, and sports is one of those agreements. In 2012, when I took the position of head of the Ministry of Sports Advisors of Brazil, I had the opportunity to lead a delegation of the Ministry of Sports in Brazil in their visit to China to talk about the possibilities for cooperation in the area of sports. So back then, apart from the contacts with the authorities and the area of sports of the Republic of China, we had a chance of visiting the Chinese Federation of Football Soccer, and the University of Sports of Peking, where most Olympic athletes prepare for competitions. And we also visited the Beijing township to exchange experiences on the organizations of the Beijing 2008 Olympics, given that Brazil and was in the Olympic Games of 2016 in Rio de Janeiro, so we were hosting. So back then we signed an MOU or a general administration of sports MOU with the government of China with the objective of making this bilateral cooperation deeper for sports areas. From this initiative, we had the creation of a work group in the scope of the Chinese-Brazilian relationship of a very high level of cooperation, which is led by both vice presidents of China and Brazil to deal with sports cooperation. So we did also 2 meetings, one in Peking and another one in Brasilia. And I had a chance of coordinating the Brazilian part of that meeting. In the first meeting, we defined the potential areas for cooperation and as organization of the Paralympic Games and the performance of Olympic Games as well and Paralympic players. And we also worked on social programs for spreading information regarding sports practice for everyone. We also did some exchanges between ping pong and badminton and jumps and athletics, and that on the side of China, and also judo, volleyball, and beach volleyball from the Brazilian part. Also, within those meetings, we could establish the connections between the University of Beijing and Brazilian institutions such as UNESCO, Unicamp, to promote and improve soccer or football soccer for China, and also they discussed the way of the broadcast of the Brazilian soccer matches in China. From the second meeting, which was held in Brasilia in 2013, we discussed topics related to the Games, to the Olympic Games of 2016, and possible actions with the objective of increasing the cooperation in the area of soccer. So it is important to highlight the fact that apart from the large number of Brazilian football players and football referees that are acting in China, there's some clubs that have the authorization to host young people younger than 18 that are there to be trained as athletes, and at the same time they need to offer the regular courses for first and second grade for the students, apart from becoming soccer athletes or football athletes, so they can also have a regular training in school. So these clubs are called clubs for trainers, and they have a special ruling for the special confederation of Brazilian football. So these clubs hosted teams from China, both female and male teams, for training periods in Brazil that had a duration of 1 or 2 years. Apart from that, table tennis in China has invested in Brazil as well. It is the case of the Dumen Football Club that acquired a training center in the Porto Feliz city in Sao Paulo state that had been built for hosting foreign teams in the World Cup of 2014. And there they established the Lumen Brazil Sports Center with the objective of training new players that can act in Chinese soccer and in the national selection of China. Later, this club was rebaptized with the name of Deportivo Brasil, and this club has professionals that participate in competitions organized by the Paulista Federation of Football. However, they've also registered the Brazilian Confederation of Football as a club that trains And today, the target is not the regular competitions, but the training of athletes for the later negotiation in the Brazilian market, in the Chinese and international market as well. So many athletes that are very rewarding in the Brazilian or Chinese or international soccer were trained in this club. More recently, in September 2020, it was founded by two Brazilian business men from Chinese origin. It was a football club as a sports arm of the Socio-Cultural Institute of Brazil and Chile, which is called Ibrachina, that even works with us, with Confucius Institute, and also is a number of initiatives. And the main objective of the club is to promote the integration between the Chinese and Brazilian peoples and cultures, and also Portuguese speaking countries, apart from being a place for new players to display themselves. And the basic categories of these clubs were playing in some tournaments as football associations. And this club brought together the Paulista Federation of Football in June 2021 with an exclusive license for dispute championships in the basin. So in August 2021, they also participated in the first competition, in the first national competition, which is the National Paulista Championship Sub-20, which includes Brazilian clubs where we have 20-year-old young people playing there. And this is a special place for these young talents to be displayed and be hired so they can be hired by first and second division Brazilian football teams. And because of the visit of the president of China to Brazil on November 20th last year, they announced and signed 37 bilateral acts that were adopted by both countries in the most diverse areas such as agriculture, trade, investment, industry, health, tourism, culture, and more than 30 acts that have been signed by President Lula, Xi Jinping. And this is something that I would like to highlight is the MOU on the sports cooperation between the Ministries of Sports of the Federal Republic of Brazil and the General Administration of Sports of China. So in this MOU on sports cooperation between Brazil and China, both countries committed themselves to make an effort to develop exchanges and cooperations in the area of sports based on the mutual respects and mutual benefits for both parties. And as well, this MOU works as an incentive for the exchange and cooperation between specialists in the area of sports, such as competitive sports specialists and sports for everyone, science, sports medicine. And this is a way of cooperating and exchanging and having an exchange between these national sports associations. Finally, I would like to address the participation of the Confucius Institute and their participation in this Brazil-China Sports Exchange in 2016 with the support of the former office of Hapag Tong. We sent to China the sub-17 team of the Palmeiras Sports Club, which was the greatest champion of the 20th century, and its 21st century was already winning 3 Copa Libertadores and in 2019 and 2021. and the Brazilian Championship of 2016, 2018, 2022, and 2023, and other international and national titles. And this team of young people, that most of them are already acting and playing in the professional football, they spent 15 days in China in the Hubei University and are associates from the UNESCO and the Confucius Institute also went to Peking. And apart from having Chinese language classes, they also played some friendly matches with students from the Hubei University team and with other teams of the Wuhan city. So that year, in 2016 as well, the Confucius Institute intermediated with the authorities of the São Paulo University, and they made an agreement for the Chinese delegation that participated in the Olympic Games from Rio de Janeiro to be able to spend the month prior to the competitions, to the official competitions of Rio de Janeiro, so they can spend the month in Rio de Janeiro so they can adapt to the local conditions. Because the locals, they were saying that they wanted to be there a month earlier than the official beginning of the games. And the Chinese team would love to come to Brazil early, and they wanted to stay here in São Paulo so they could adapt to the weather and the local conditions. So we contributed to intermediate this negotiation with the municipality of São Paulo, so they could stay here and train for that period of time, and they could finish their training here in the Sports Club Pinheiro, which is a traditional club of the São Paulo city, even in the training of athletes, for Olympic athletes as well. So, and because of the Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games and Yuan Ton that was here representing Xi Jinping president in the opening of the Olympic Games, he made a memorable visit in our institute. Apart from the courses from Chinese language in the case of the institute, we also want to incentivize the practice of sports that are from China, such as Tai Chi and Chinese martial arts. And whenever we have a chance to do so, we offer our courses depending on the availability of trained professionals to do so. So these Chinese teachers or coaches that come to Brazil, they should come for 2 years and then they can go back. And not always the ones that come, they have a condition to offer those courses. Whenever we receive and host professors that have some training in the sports area, we offer for our students some Tai Chi courses and some courses for Wushu. For the exchange programs that we offer through the Hubei University, which is our associate from the Confucius Institute, the students that we send with the support of the Confucius Institute for these courses that are 4 weeks long or 6 months or etc., they can join Tai Chi courses, and there's also some other classes that are offered as an option, which is the martial arts and Chinese course, and there's also specific courses for lion dance and also dragon dance classes. So I would like to highlight as well that the lion and dragon dance groups from the University of Hubei already was several times a national champion in Chinese competitions. And students that would like to do Hubei courses, they can also have physical education and graduation courses in administration of sports, and also entertainment courses, and also traditional Chinese sports, among others. It is also important to register that a big part of our students are enrolling in Chinese language courses because they are interested in Chinese martial arts, apart from the dance of lion and the dance of the dragon. So because in São Paulo,
We have several gyms and sports clubs that are led by Chinese and Brazilian professionals that teach the dance of the lion and the dance of the dragon, and professors, and they dedicate to these activities, and we are regularly in contact with them. And many of the people who practice these Chinese martial arts, they come to our courses to learn the language and also Chinese culture, because there's interest and they have a passion for these martial arts that are from China. An important thing also that every year we do an agreement with the Company of Cinema of São Paulo, and there's a festival of Chinese cinema. In this year, 2025, for the first time ever, we signed an agreement with a Hong Kong association called Saltram Foundation to do a parallel show of Chinese movies that are related to the topic of martial arts. And these are always very popular here among the Brazilian young people. And finally, I would like to highlight that in the last 2 years, sports have some joint declarations of other diplomatic aids of China with different countries in the world, such as is the case we mentioned before, the MOU with Brazil. It is not a coincidence. This has been intensified since the arrival of President Xi Jinping to the power, and also President in his speech on the 16th Games of BRICS, they mentioned the importance of building a bridge that is committed with closer exchanges among people, so everyone can act as a defender of the coexistence, the harmonious coexistence between all of the civilizations. So then, for the President Xi, is important this speech he made, and also they talk about making the most out of the potential for cooperation in areas such as sports. So these were words by President Xi Jinping, so they can promote the spirit of inclusion, that is a harmonious inclusion in among the civilizations. So something that is very evident here is the importance that President Xi Jinping gives to this matter of sports as an instrument, as a part of the sports diplomacy, as a very important element for cultural integration and an element for the promotion of the friendship among different people. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Paulino. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Paulino.
Muchas gracias, Paulino, por su
Thank you, Paulino, for your presentation. That is so interesting to know about the link of sport between China and Brazil. Without a doubt, this is very similar to what we've seen with Chile and what we have seen and what we continue seeing in other countries in Latin America. So we wanted to take 2 countries from Latin America and see their relationship between sports and the link towards language. Without a doubt, Professor Wudong, Professor Paulino, and Professor Cortés, all 3 of them have mentioned the importance of Chinese language in sports. We are certain that what we need to link precisely in academic activities between universities, such as the ones mentioned by Professor Paulino, how they have been done, and we have knowledge in Chile between several universities and with other Latin American and Caribbean countries.
es tarde en Beijing.
It is very
Son
late in
ya
Beijing. It's
las
already
11:20 de la
11,
noche allá.
sorry,
Quiero
20 past
agradecer
11 at night over
muchísimo
there. I would really
al
like to
profesor
thank
Budong por
Professor Wudong
estar a
for
esta hora.
being
Quiero
so
decirle
late
además
online.
que tomaremos sus
I would like to say that we
sugerencias y
also
vamos
take
a
all of your
hacer
suggestions, and we will
un
do
webinar
a
específico
specific
sobre Tai
webinar
Chi
to
y
cover the topics
Wushu.
of
Lo
Tai
invitaremos,
Chi
por
and Wushu,
supuesto,
and
para
we
que
will
usted
by
pueda
all
hacer una
means
clase
invite you
específica sobre
so you
esta
can do a
área que
masterclass on this
transmitiremos en
area,
todos los
and
idiomas
we
a toda
will
América Latina y el
transmit
Caribe.
this to all of the languages in all of Latin
Invitarlos
America and the
a
Caribbean.
todos a
We
que
would like to
sigan
invite
en
everyone
nuestro.
to
Tenemos
follow
durante el
us.
año
And during this year, we're going to have
seminarios
several
de chino
seminars
más.
of
Hemos hecho
Chinese
chino
plus.
más
We have done Chinese
arquitectura,
plus
chino más
architecture,
ingenierías
Chinese
renovables,
plus renewable
chino más
engineering,
diseño,
Chinese plus
chino
design,
más salud,
Chinese plus
chino
health,
más
Chinese
ingeniería, que es otro que nos
plus
va a tocar
engineering, which is
pronto,
another one we're
etcétera.
going to have
Queremos
soon,
poner
and
el
so on.
idioma chino
So we
como
wanted to
parte de
put
una
Chinese language
vinculación
as a part
en
of
áreas específicas.
network
Hoy día fue el
touching
deporte,
specific
ha
areas.
sido
Today
muy
was the turn of
interesante.
sports, and this
Queremos
has been most
nuestra
interesting.
oficina
We
regional
want, with
que
our regional
los
office,
académicos de
we
América
want that
Latina
the
y el
members of the
Caribe, los
academia of
académicos
Latin America and
chinos
the Caribbean and
puedan
the Chinese
compartir sus
members of the
experiencias
academia
y
can share their
podamos, a
experiences
partir de
so we
estas
can, from these
experiencias,
experiences,
compartir nuestros vínculos
share
y
our
crear
bonds and
proyectos en
create
conjunto.
joint
Esa es
projects.
la idea, que
So
cooperemos
this
y
is
las
the idea that we can
universidades
cooperate and that the
latinoamericanas
Latin American
cooperen
universities
con
can cooperate
universidades chinas y las
with Chinese
universidades chinas se
universities, and the
interesen
Chinese
en trabajar
universities
en
will take an
conjunto
interest in
con las
working
universidades
together
latinoamericanas.
with
Y
Latin
para
American
eso,
universities.
nuestra
And for
oficina
that,
regional
our
está
regional
para ser
office
un
is
puente.
there to be a
Muchas
bridge.
gracias a
Thank you
todos
very much,
por
everyone,
el tiempo. Ha
for your
sido muy
time. It has
interesante.
been very
Quedará esto
interesting.
grabado en
This
YouTube
is going to
y
be
lo
recorded
verán
on
miles de
YouTube,
personas
and
como ha
it's
sido
going to
nuestra
be seen by
experiencia
thousands of
en los
people as
próximos
it has
días y
been our
meses.
experience, and
Un gran abrazo a
people will watch
todos
this
y nos
in the
vemos
upcoming
pronto.
days and months. So big hugs,
Muito
everyone, and let's meet
obrigado.
again soon.
Bye
Muito
bye.
obrigado. Bye.
Bye, Xie.
Achei.